Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. How you doing today? It's May the 12th, and I hope you're having a good time doing what you're doing where you are doing it. I have offered to answer questions. If you want to ask a question about the Masters of Wisdom or Maitreya, the priorities of Maitreya or so forth, feel free to post your question as a comment, and I'll do my best to answer it. If I don't know the answer, I will tell you I don't know. I'm man enough to admit when I don't know the answer to something. If you want to email me directly, you can at searchforsigns@mail.com. So I've had a few questions this week after this last video I want to answer. The first one comes from Rob Stockman. Did Jesus come from a wealthy family with an uncle in the trade? I've heard that Jesus would travel with him across the oceans, going to different places, learning from wise masters of those times from around the globe. Does this sound familiar or am I wrong? Anyway, according to the Ageless Wisdom teachings, Jesus came from humble beginnings, just like was written into the gospel story. So he did not come from a wealthy family per se. Now, during the quote-unquote lost years of Jesus that weren't really written in the Bible, Jesus did travel, but not in the way that you and I would have had to travel by boat or horse or camel or whatever. Because Jesus was so advanced and able to, he was nearly a master at the time that he was Jesus in Palestine, that he could think himself from point A to point B. He could also be in Palestine and think himself, go out of body, so to speak, to other areas of the world and converse with the masters of the time, as you put it. So did he travel? Yes, but not in the way that we would had to have done. Also, a lot of the folklore about Jesus traveling and being at other times other than when he was in Palestine, a lot of it comes from his incarnations after Jesus. He became a master in the very next lifetime as Apollonius of Tyana, who was a Greek philosopher. And there's not a lot of information about who he was, but there has been rumors and conjecture that Jesus, did not actually die on the cross. He slipped away and escaped from Palestine and lived his life as Apollonius of Tyana, a Greek philosopher. And like I said, it's not a very popular theory, but it's a theory out there. According to the Ageless Wisdom teachings, it was just his next incarnation. Jesus did die on the cross, esoterically in the way that it was predicted or was written in the Bible, but and then rose again after 3 days. Now, the purpose and the meaning behind the crucifixion, the esoteric meaning, is not what a typical evangelical Christian would believe, or just somebody who follows the Christian church would believe. It's much deeper than that. But it's Jesus was symbolizing in 5 key points in his life that were written in the way, and the timing of it were written in the way that it was symbolizing the steps that we all have to take in order to become a master. And we can talk more about it in another video. But anyway, yes, and then there's also a lot of folklore that Jesus came to the Americas and to the Pacific Islanders and taught them, and it was written in the Mormon Bible. I'm not a Mormon. I've never read the Mormon Bible, but according to the esoteric teachings, he did, in fact, when he was a master, come to the United States, or what is now the United States, and speak to the Native American people. So I hope that answers that question. Anyway, this next one comes from Flippin' Photos. Information says his spirit has manifested in human form. His regent began 2420. More information will be known soon. Opinions on Haile Selassie the First. I guess is that the king of or the leader of Kenya or whatever it was. I don't know. I don't really have an opinion about him either way. Maitreya lived. He was the first of humanity to become a master of our evolution. There were other people that became masters, but they were not from our planet. They actually had fallen here from higher planets and lived out the rest of their lives as, like one of us, but they they became masters in their own time. But Maitreya was the first. And since he'd been a master, he'd been working behind the scenes along with all the other masters for eons. But he had been living in the Himalayas, about 17,500 feet up, working through his disciples like Jesus back in Palestine and others, to help set the stage for when these masters can actually come back into the world and teach us directly like they did over 100,000 years ago. And so Maitreya, back in the 70s, in 1977, created his own body called a Mahavarupa. And he did it by taking some of the qualities of the Buddha and some of his own qualities, and he matched it some kind of way and created a body that can live at our level, our very low level, but yet retain the high consciousness that he has. And so some of these masters, like the Master Jesus, were born several hundred years ago in the typical way, started to discover that they were masters when they were like 3 or 4 years old or whatever, so very young, and then have lived out their lives behind the scenes as a master, but living in the same body. In other masters, like Sai Baba, for instance, who's a very famous spiritual master who passed away not too long ago, was born in the typical way, aged in the typical way, and passed away. And so it just depends on their purpose and what they want to do. But Maitreya's kind of unique in creating the vehicle that he has that we will eventually all become accustomed to seeing on TV and so forth. But I've never heard that his regent begun in 2420. But anyway, he's been on TV for the last 10 years, or a little bit more than 10 years or whatever it's been, and speaking directly to humanity, but quietly. And he's doing it in order to not be cute, but he's doing it so that we will have a heartfelt response to the message. But that time is not far off from when he will start to speak more and more and more directly and ramp up his message enough to where people start to recognize him, that he's extraordinary. They might not see him as Maitreya or the Christ or whatever, and that's fine, but they'll start to really resonate with what he's saying. But according to Benjamin Creme's own master, Maitreya, even though he's speaking in incognito on TV, however often he does, it is having an effect on the consciousness of the people who are listening to him. Now, the next question, I don't really have an answer to a lot of this stuff, but it's from Tao Zen Chi, who's commented a lot over the last few days, which is great. I actually appreciate it. Talks about Maitreyas. Is Maitreya the Illuminati? No, he's not. I don't even necessarily buy the whole theory that there's an Illuminati. Now, are there people in control of the purse strings of the world? Absolutely, but in terms of the Illuminati, that a lot of conspiracy theorists think in the extent that they have and the control, I don't buy that. But anyway, that's just me. Now, the last question I want to answer today comes from Marcus Torres. And it says, can I ever manifest on that level of his? It's a good question. Depends which way you look at it. If you're looking at it from our standpoint, then eventually we will all manifest the consciousness of these masters. Now, whether we choose, once we become a master, if we choose to take the path of being a Christ like Maitreya or the Buddha or Sai Baba or Babaji from the Yogananda teachings, then that is our path that we choose, which would then we work on not only manifesting the soul nature, we embody the soul nature of God, or the love nature of God. So from our point of view, yes, eventually we will all, but it will take us a long time. It's not just a couple weeks. I mean, it takes these masters lifetimes to get to the point where they actually are even at the beginning stages of being a master, let alone somebody who is at the high level of Maitreya. Maitreya's consciousness is unbelievably advanced from what we would think. We can't even really even comprehend the way that these masters think and the wisdom that they have. And, but they also have this humor about them that is just, it's remarkable in the same way. So in the face of all the problems of the world, they have a wonderful sense of humor, and it's said that within the heart of all these masters, but especially with Maitreya, within the heart of Maitreya is all the suffering in the world. Every single time we suffer, he feels it in his own heart. But also every time we experience joy or love, he experiences that along with us. So, eventually that's where these masters are coming back, is to teach us how to manifest our own soul nature, which is what they are doing. But Maitreya actually can embody the love nature of God, not only manifest it. But if you're looking at it from the master's point of view, who they don't have any sense of time in the way that we see time. They see it, time as one. You're already manifesting it on some level. It just hasn't manifested yet physically here, But so we all will, we all have, and we all have already manifested that level, if you're looking at it from the master's point of view. So, like I said, from their point of view, time is eternal. But I did want to answer it more on a practical level. Okay, so to answer that question on a practical level, can I ever manifest on that level of his? One of the Maitreya experiences that I had right before he came out on TV, I saw him in Marietta, Georgia on the street. And I was part of a very tiny little peace rally every Friday. And there wasn't a lot of people. It was probably like 5 or 6 people maybe that would do this, hold up signs on the street corner for an hour every Friday. And Maitreya just happened to show up and was not only talking to me, but he was conversing with some of the others of this peace rally. And at the end of, he left, and then at the end of the rally, I was walking to my car, and he's sitting down on this chair in this little alleyway as I'm walking to my car, and once I get close enough, he says, I can't remember exactly how he started the conversation, but he started talking to me a little bit more open than he was talking to those in the peace rally. And so he looked at me and he goes, some of the things that are very memorable that are important, but he said, one of the things he said, he goes, you're going to see me on TV real soon, and we're going to change the world together and, make this a better place and all that kind of stuff. And I never thought that he was talking to me per se, but just to people in general. And not long after that, it was just a few months after that, Benjamin Creme made the announcement that he actually was on TV doing his first interview. But the other thing he said that I thought was interesting, it kind of pertains to this question, is he looked at me quite abruptly and said, I never judge anyone on whether they're good or bad. I only notice the good things that they do. And I took it several ways when he first said that to me. First, it was in direct response to a time when I was alone in my bedroom and I looked at the hand of Maitreya, which you can go on Share International's website and download a PDF file of the hand of Maitreya. And the hand of Maitreya is the closest that any one of us can get to Maitreya before he's out known openly in the world. But I said something to the hand, basically, that I considered myself lazy and not doing enough to help, And so when he said that to me, I thought about that in terms of what I said as a direct response. Like, he doesn't judge me for being bad. He just judges the good things. He just notices the good things that I do. That was the first way I interpreted it. And then I started looking at the way that people view the Christ to come back as a judge. Just like I read in the last message, the Son of Man, Many people await the return of the Christ with trepidation and fear. They look to him as God to come judge the wicked and reward the faithful, right? Well, there is no judge. The Christ isn't a judge. He's a teacher. He's an elder brother. And so he doesn't notice, he doesn't judge us, whether we're good or bad. He only notices the good things that they do. So that's the other way I saw it. But the third way was more recent. And it blew my mind when I thought about this. But when I was a kid and my mom was reading the Bible to me before I went to bed one night, and I was real little. I was probably 2.5 or 3 maybe. And after she was through, she was tucking me in or whatever. I looked at her and I said, Mom, one day I'm gonna be able to love the way that Jesus loves. And she said, no, honey, he's the only one that can love like that. And I respectfully disagreed with her as a little kid. I said, no, one day I will. And I wasn't trying to one up Jesus. It was just, I saw that as my potential, and so, and not just my own potential, but all our potential, really. And so when he said that to me, and I started thinking about it not too long ago, just a few months ago, a couple things happened. One, I think that that is the key. The masters love unconditionally no matter what. They are men without fault. And so they don't get angry, they don't criticize, they don't gossip, never. And they only love unconditionally. And so, but the first step, I think, to becoming and loving like they are is to not judge anyone on whether they're good or bad, only notice the good things that they do. So there was a time I was working with this person for about a month. And so this person was, at first I saw him as being very arrogant, very cocky. I could not really talk to him to try to see other sides of things. And he was very critical of, even though I was really trying really hard. He wasn't my boss or anything. He was just a coworker. But I found him very irritating, to be honest. And I thought about this thought. So I noticed one good thing, just one good thing that he did. And I stopped focusing on being critical of him. And then I noticed something else. And then I noticed something else. And during the process of me doing this, over the days that I started doing this, our relationship transformed to where it was much more relaxed. It didn't seem quite as abrasive as he once was, to the point when after the month of me doing this, I was actually defending him to other coworkers who were just as irritated as I was at the beginning of the month. So I think that's the key. And, try it and see if it doesn't work, for yourself on those people that bug the fool out of you, like so many people can. But anyway, I hope this helps, and I hope I answered the questions, and I look forward to more questions in the future. You have a great and wonderful day. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.